Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Stuff I Heard podcast. I am your host, Joshua Peak. How's everybody doing? I think we've actually made it through the summer. The weather's cooling off. We're having some mornings where everything is a bit chilly, and we've got some fog to deal with out there. It's always that time of the year we got to look out for deer meandering out into the street. We never think about how much hunters actually help us or predatory animals actually help us by culling down the deer in the area. But this time of year, you hear about a lot of people getting in accidents where they hit these animals just wandering out into the road. A lot of it's the fact that we're going too fast and we can't see, and it's not slowing us down any, but we're still doing it. I hear a weird noise in my headphones. Let me adjust something here. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear it, and it's unnerving. Why am I hearing this? I think it's actually my headphone that I hear. But anyway, I want to talk about this is stuff I heard. I want to talk about something that I heard. So Netflix apparently has hit a home run with a show that was originally a Korean show. I don't know if it was made for Netflix or if it was a show that Netflix bought, but Squid Game. I saw in the first week they posted that 111 million people watched Squid Game. Now, when it first came out, I was busy and not really in an emotional place to watch it. I wanted to see it, but I just couldn't get around to it. And I did have a moment to sit down and actually watch the show. Last Friday, I took the day off because we went out of town. We went to the mountains to enjoy some time with some friends. I did sort of a makeshift podcast up there. I hope you guys listened to it, and I know it was awful. Sorry. I'm doing what I can. But Squid Game is crazy. I saw the first 6 episodes that Friday, and then when we got back in town Monday, I watched the last bit of it. And it's really amazing because I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of how they made the show, the cost element, and the control of what they have and how they shoot. And it's a very economical show to shoot. Let me explain. So, really, all you have to have is people. Okay. And if you sign people up for a show and you say, hey, listen, you're going to be in the show and you're going to be an extra, you only have a certain amount of lead characters and any characters anybody gives a crap about. Right. And those characters are probably going to be written to where you go, okay, we're going to have a lot of people at the beginning of the show, and at the end, it's going to be a lot less. Spoiler, if you haven't watched Squid Game, I'm going to talk a lot about it, okay? So Squid Game it starts off with a guy explaining a game about how to play this game and how difficult it is and the challenges that you're faced with and the rules that you have and how you actually eventually win this childhood game called Squid Game. And then it talks about how there are lots of games in life that we play, and sometimes those consequences of the games we play have consequences, have serious consequences. So basically, we're introduced to a main character. Don't ask me to repeat his name. I don't know. Let's call him Jim just for fun. I don't know any Jims, but I do actually know a Jim. Anyway, let's just call him Jim just for fun. Shout out to Champ. So Jim, let's call him Champ for fun. Okay, Champ. Let's say the main character's name is Champ. All right, Champ. Just because I came up with Jim. He's sort of living this life where he's living with his mom. He's an not elderly. He's an older fella. He should have been out of the house, kind of old, like sort of like someone I know who stayed at home a little too long. But you learn through the show that this guy is living with his mom for a reason. He's had some PTSD issues over the fact that he worked for a car dealership and they assembled cars for, he said, over a decade. And a large portion of their workforce was laid off, and him and some friends went on strike because they didn't think it was the right thing. He felt that it was dishonorable for the company to lay off so many people. And in the process of the strike, he saw a friend, I'm guessing, killed right in front of him during the riots. So he's got some PTSD issues. He's living with his mom. He apparently has a gambling addiction because he's stealing an ATM out of his mom's cookie jar and trying to randomly pick her PIN number, which ends up being his daughter's number, her granddaughter. And he has no relationship with his daughter, who's like 10. And he's supposed to go to her birthday party or give her something for her birthday or spend time with her for her birthday. But no, he goes and gets the money out of his mom's ATM and goes to the horse track to bet because he has a gambling addiction. And while he's there, he loses some money. And then he finally wins some money. And their money ratio is different than our money ratio because he won like 4 million or something like that. And he like tips the girl 10,000 at the window. And I get the impression that $10,000 for them is like, you know, maybe $1,000 for us. There's a weird ratio difference between inflation. Although, don't get me wrong, America's getting there with their inflation. But he then leaves with the $4 million and he's immediately chased by people who obviously he owes money to. I'm guessing mobsters or loan sharks or whatever you want to call it. But they're there to collect. So they chase him and he's running. And he bumps into some woman, knocks her down. Oh, I'm so sorry. He goes to pick her up, whatever. And he runs off and they catch him and they beat his tail. And he's like, I got your money. And he reaches in his pocket and he's got a hole in his pocket and the money's gone. And then it dawns on her, oh, crap. I've dropped that money and that girl took it. Or she saw it and she just picked it up, whatever, but she's got the money. So after he gets his butt beat and they make him sign some kind of contract and stamp his nose thumb blood thing into the contract, he's then required to appear for something or they can start selling body parts to pay back the money he owes them. That's kind of the gist of what I got from all that. So Champ, being the champ that he is, he goes back to try and find the woman. He can't find the woman. He goes and he immediately gets 10 grand from the woman that he gave it to at the window, gets that money back, and then gambles it away trying to win a prize in one of those claw games at the arcade for his daughter to win her something. And he gets some kid to help him and he ends up winning something. He doesn't know what it is. It's just in a pretty box. And he rushes off to get his daughter and he gives her this thing and she opens it up and it's a gun, but it's not just a gun. She pulls the trigger and it's a lighter. And he's trying to be, oh yeah, because you know, every now and then you need to light something and have it look like a gun. He's a terrible dad. So this terrible dad, also living with his mom, who is apparently dying. She's got diabetes or something, and he finds out that she's very sick. And this guy meets him on a subway. He's at his low point, and he finds out that his daughter's moving to Korea, or moving from Korea to America, and he has no rights because he didn't have any money. So he meets this guy on a subway, and he's down on his luck. And this guy comes up and says, "Hey, would you like to play a game and possibly win some money?" And he plays this game with him in the subway where it's like a children's game. Then they have these little pieces of paper that are red and blue, and you put them on the ground and you throw it down. And if you can flip it over, then you win the prize. And he's like, every game you win, I'll give you 100,000. Every game I win, he's like, yeah, but I don't have 100,000 to give you. And he goes, yeah, but every game I win, I get to slap you as hard as I can. And he's like, wait, so I can win money, but you can just slap me? And he's like, yeah. So they play this game for a while in the subway. And he wins at a certain point. Champ does. And he goes to slap the guy because he loses a bunch in the beginning. But he goes to slap the guy and the guy goes, here. And he gives him the money. He's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. This is the rules. So they're playing the game. And after a while, you see him. He's counting a bunch of money in his hand. And he's red in the face and he's kind of bleeding. But he's happy because he's got money, right? And the guy says, listen, I've got more games like this if you want to play them. But let me know. And he gives him like a business card with a phone number on it. And so he's got some money. And he buys some fish for his mom. And he's like, yeah, this is great. Then he finds out how sick his mom really is. And he's like, oh, I need to come up with some more money. Maybe I will play some more games. So he calls out to the guy. And the guy says, hey, meet me at midnight at this place. They meet. He gets in the thing. Next thing you know, he's playing some game with a bunch of other people. It looks like they're in prison. Like he got gassed on the way to the thing. And he wakes up and he's wearing a uniform with a number. And he's got number 465. And he realized pretty quickly they're all numbered. And he's the last one to get in. So there's 465 that start this game. First game comes up. Hey, it's red light, green light. Children's game, right? You got someone on one end of the room. It ends up being this giant, creepy looking statue of a girl. She says, here's the rules. And she tells the rules of red light, green light. When it's green light, you advance. When it's red light, you stand still or you're eliminated. What they don't tell anybody in the group is eliminated means killed, because they go running as soon as it's green light and she says red light and there's a bunch of people moving and these snipers come out of nowhere and just start leveling people. And people are freaking out. They go running, and of course, because they're moving, they get shot also. And after the first round of everyone in shock and everyone, losing their minds, green light happens, and you look around, and there's not many people left. Over half the people get gone in the first round. They make it to the end and like, we don't want to do this anymore. We didn't know that you were going to kill us if we didn't survive. And like, okay. Fair enough. You have a clause that says you can leave if over half of you vote to leave. So they took a vote, and over half the people chose to leave. And they said, all right, well, you chose to leave, but here's the money that you just earned by surviving the first round. And they dropped this thing from the ceiling, this plexiglass looking giant piggy bank thing, and it fills up with money, just and it shows some ridiculous total of so many millions of dollars. And they're like, what? And they go, oh yeah. And if you choose that you don't want to play anymore, which you've already voted to go home, but if you choose not to play anymore, this money will be divvied up and given to the families of those who just died. But we want you to give you some time to think about it. So go home, think about it. You have a week, something like that. So they go home, they think about it, whatever, and they realize that when they go home, that life is pretty crappy, and they just want to go back because they really need the money. Not all of them, but the majority of them come back. And when they come back, it's like, all right, so we're going to play. Here, sign this contract saying you understand this is what's going to happen. And they do. And as you're watching it, you realize that the games are thinning the herd more and more. And I don't think they do the math really to think about the fact that, oh, in order for me to win this, like probably everyone in here is going to die. Maybe all of them. So the game gets crazier and crazier. There's a very interesting thing in the background going on with some of the guards in the game. It's creepy because you can't see their faces. So, okay, back to why I said this is cheap to make. Okay, so the special effects of gun splatter and that kind of thing, that's pretty cheap. You can do that pretty easily. I haven't done it, but I know that it's pretty easy. You start off with 465 people who most of them are extras, let's face it. And you go, hey, you're going to be in a scene. Your face will be seen probably, but you're going to die within an episode. And then, we got some other work for you to do. So some people could qualify to represent guards because you don't see much of the guards and the people in the same scenes. So you could have people double as guards. And then as you eliminate people, you get to eliminate casting and people involved. And I mean, that part's easy. You're controlling the setting. You've got set scenes. So really, the shooting aspect of it, you could have set cameras. You have a little bit of movement of camera, but it's all very simple the way they did it. It's really smart. The show is, listen, I know the show is really messed up and the games are crazy and the ending is especially crazy. At the very end, you think everything's done, and then I paused it to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I got 37 more minutes. What could they possibly talk about in 37 more minutes? Oh, it gets crazier. I'm not gonna spoil the whole thing, but just that's the gist of the show. My mom probably won't want to watch it. My dad might watch it and be like, whoa, that was crazy. But anyway, Squid Game, crazy show, crazy idea for a show. Apparently kids are now playing this game in India with I guess without the consequences, but they have crazy games that they're playing now because of watching the show. I don't know that I'd be letting kids watch. I don't know. You can't really control what kids watch. Okay, here's the question. How long do you keep your kids in the closet about life? I mean, if you shelter them at a certain point, they go out and they make friends and possibly run into a serial killer, and they go, hey, how about climb into the van and I'll take you to pet my puppies? And then the next thing you know, you're like, if you've seen Jimmy, please contact me right away. I'm so scared about Jimmy being gone, or whatever their name is. I don't know why I'm picking on Jim. Sorry, Jim. Just messing with you, dude. Actually, I'm not. I'm just throwing that name out there. I'm all over the place today. I work today. It's hot out there. It's supposed to be turning cool. I'm looking forward to some cooler temperatures. I need some help, honestly, with things. Like there's things that need to be done that I don't think I have enough time for. And I think I may need to think I may need to ask for help or hire help or something. I just don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time to do the thing I like to do, which is this podcast. I don't have time to do the research to do the podcast. I don't have time to listen to podcasts to talk about podcasts. I don't have time to edit. I don't have time. I heard people say, this is stuff I heard. I've heard people say that at a certain point in your life, you start telling people no, and there's power in the no. And I kind of agree with that, but I also think that there is a certain sort of pleasure in the yes, in agreeing to help people and agreeing to do for people. And I have said it in the past, hey, if you need help, ask me. I may not know how, but we'll figure it out probably. I mean, but between work and uh, eating and showering and sleeping and trying to spend a little time with my wife, it's getting hard to do much of anything else. And I know just 6 months ago, I was like, oh God, I just want to go back to work. And yeah, I jumped right into the fire. But I did celebrate my 1 year of having my eye injury, by the way. Yay, in 1 year. Yay. Um, but I need a little more breathing room, if that makes any sense. I just need a little breath, a little moment. Speaking of which, I got some sweet tea here by in a sweet cup that Cheryl Walker made for me with my logo on the cup. That's pretty cool. I like that. If you guys at the YouTube, you can see this cup. It's really pretty. It's got like a it's got like one of those Yeti type designs with the metal insulated inside. Mm, some sweet tea. Yeah, baby. So there's lots of things on TV right now that I want to watch. My wife works with a former Marine, fellow Marine. There's no proper way to say it. He was a Marine Corps pilot, helicopter pilot. Rich flew the 53 Echo Super Stallion. I have talked to my wife many, many times about what an awesome machine this is and how I was actually stationed with HMH 361 for a while, which is heavy machine helicopter 361 Tiger. Anyway, the Flying Tigers, we, it's a big deal, whatever. But Rich used to fly the actual Sea Stallion, the Super Stallion, the big boss looking. It looks like Airwolf on steroids and can like carry troops and tanks, and it's impressive. And when it flies over anything, it sounds like a freight train is going through your building. It's which is similar to an earthquake. Being on a helicopter squadron or an air squadron, I should say. Anytime we heard things rattling, we were unsure if it was an actual earthquake or if it was the helicopter getting a little too close to the building. But this thing is impressive. And Rich flew one a lot. And my wife goes, hey, I work with this guy and he used to fly these helicopters. I don't know what they're called, but they look like this. And I was like, yeah, that's the helicopter I was telling you about. And she's like, I don't remember. Okay, that's fair. Listen, I talk a lot. I get it. I have a lot of information. It's really hard to remember a lot of things. But anyway, Rich had a suggestion because he was talking about different shows that he's watched on TV. And there's this thing on Netflix with Jake Gyllenhaal called Guilty. He says Bill Burr's in it too. I'm like, ooh, I'm a Bill Burr fan. Heck yeah. I watched the preview for Guilty and it made me panic. Like it was a little terrifying. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I love a lot of stuff he's in. I mean, he's in some great stuff. Probably one of the most underrated movies ever was Source Code. If you have a chance to watch Source Code, that is really bonkers. But yeah, huge Jake Gyllenhaal fan. And this looks incredible. He's like a 911 operator, and listen, there's a lot of shows. I get it. A lot of shows have come up with the past couple of years of 911 operators who suddenly get into some kind of secret, crazy, I got to save this person kind of scenario. And I'm sure they put it on Netflix. They were like, we don't need another one to go to the theater because we have 5 this past year that came out that were like that. but the previews look good. And Rich gives his stamp of approval, so I'm going to check it out. Um, I also watched the final season for Sex Education on Netflix. I've talked about it before. Gillian Anderson is probably the most known actor on the show. She's from the X Files, um, Agent Scully. She she's supposed to be like a sex educator and a therapist, and her son going to some school, I guess in England. They all have the British accent. He makes friends at school sort of by giving them sex advice from things that he heard from his mom. And he does his own research and he sort of relates what he learns from her to what they're going through in school to sort of give them some hopefully good advice. And the stories are interesting. The complications and the situations that they're in while they're going through puberty are all very interesting because they mimic a lot of real life. They mimic real situations. And this was season four's finale. The biggest and probably the most important thing that they did this season was they addressed this character on the show is handy capable. Is that the right term? Handy. He's paralyzed. He's paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair, and he has. It looks like just the use of his hand to operate his wheelchair and his neck to move around, but that's kind of it. And he is intimate with the young lady, and she asks questions, and they do it very respectfully in the way that it doesn't really show a lot, but it also like he tells her this is where I'm sensitive, and this is I can function this way, but this I can't, and like it's for anybody who's looking to watch it to get their rocks off and be like, oh, this is great, I'm gonna jerk off. No, don't do that. This is not that kind of show. This is education. There's educational moments in it. There's educational moments on how to talk to people the right way, on what it's like to be gay in a relationship where maybe someone isn't, or in a relationship where maybe someone is physically sexually active, but they realize at a certain point that they don't want to be. I mean, there's all kind of scenarios that people go through, especially in their youth, where they're trying to figure out their bodies and what they're going through and all the changes that they're going through and what they're supposed to do. And the truth is, we all get it wrong a lot of the time. We make a lot of mistakes, but that's part of figuring it out. That's part of growth. It's part of life. But the show remains pretty clear with the term sex education. This is an education. It crosses a lot of boundaries for people because it goes into one of the characters has a fantasy about alien worlds and dress up and cosplay. And, there's another character who realizes, or is gay, openly gay, and gets bullied a lot. And in the process realizes that his bully is gay. The bully doesn't even know that about himself until a certain point, and then they are in a relationship, and their relationship is strained because one of them is sort of at the phase in his life where he wants to be open and honest with everybody and enjoy the life that he's now allowed to have, thankfully, through social media and acceptance for a lot of people. But his partner isn't. And there's another character who's transitioning, and there is a moment where a straight young fella is falling for her, and she's transitioning to be a guy, and she's like, listen, this is who I'm turning into, and you have to be okay with that. And they do it respectfully in a way that is showing an example of how you should handle that situation with just honesty and conversation and all the things that we're too embarrassed or afraid to talk about. They sort of address all of these things as education, as a show. It's a show, but there's conversation in all of it. It's on stage for us to watch and to learn, but it's done in a way that we can grow from it, if that makes any sense. So I highly recommend checking out Sex Education. It's a great show. There's some funny stuff in it. There's some serious stuff in it. Yeah. And in the process, Gillian Anderson is sort of our moms in the scenario, saying, listen, it's okay to feel uneasy about this stuff. It is uneasy for people to talk about because it's so taboo for so many people. But as soon as you start talking about it, you can learn. So there's that. What else? I think that's about it. You ever hear yourself talk for a while and you're like, wow, I have a lot to say. And then you go, okay, I'm done now. I think I'm done now. If you're in the Albany, Georgia area, tonight is the night to go see 95 band play at Tammy's. Go check it out. They're having another outing, and I'm looking forward to going seeing Greg soon. We're supposed to go to a concert down there in Albany, Georgia. Should be cool. Collective Soul is actually coming there. I had to like Google Collective Soul songs because I remember I used to listen to them, but I was like, I don't remember them off the top of my head. I had to go look it up, but it should be fun. Yay. So anyway, thanks to everybody who's listening. I appreciate the comments last week. I know it was a weird bonkers episode, and I was trying to put out something and I didn't have my equipment and I didn't think it through, and I apologize, but I appreciate every one of you. Thank you for sticking around. I promise I'll do better. I just have to motivate myself. I have to kick my own self in the butt, and I got to get somebody to help me do some crap around here. This is overwhelming a little bit at times. I realize that I don't have time to learn the things I want to learn, and I don't have time to do the things that need maintenance also. And somewhere in there, I'm supposed to relax. I don't know. I think I talked about this on more than one podcast. But time management. Yeah. At some point, I'm going to have to say no to myself. That's the crazy part. All right. I'm out of here. Thanks for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. It does help the podcast. I know I say this a lot pretty quickly, but I do appreciate everything that everybody's said and done and helped me with. And if you want to be on the podcast and talk about whatever, you know me, I'll talk about aliens and ghosts and craziness and whatever and multiverses and all that fun stuff. So thanks again. And I always end this by saying, cue the cow. Moo, baby.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.